the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have another very special guest. We've been waiting for him for a few weeks, but he's a very busy guy. I'd like to welcome Dr. Chris Heavey, the interim president of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or UNLV, and my fellow board member at the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. Chris, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I know we just spent some time in D.C., getting to know each other. And as a matter of fact, the first time I met you, you were scooting around.
Yeah, I had a hurt foot. I had some surgery on my foot right when I became president.
Yeah. And it was in Reno, so you were a trooper. You were doing the job even though you were hurt.
I was trying to be careful on the ice especially.
That's right. So, Chris, to get started here on the podcast, what we like to do is, for those who don't have the pleasure, as some of us do, to know you already, share with our audience where you were born, raised, went to elementary, middle, high school, perhaps even take us to your first job.
Sure. So basically, I was born in Chicago, Illinois. My parents lived there, and I lived there until I was 10 years old. But then we moved to California, and so from 10 to 30, I lived in California. Some of the LA area, and I consider myself really having grown up in the Bay Area. That's where I went to high school in East Bay, Walnut Creek, California, if people know that area. Beautiful, beautiful part of the country. And then did my undergraduate in the Monterey Bay Area at UC Santa Cruz, and then went back down to LA or UCLA to get my PhD.
Wow. Santa Cruz are the gauchos?
Santa Cruz are the banana slugs.
Banana slugs.
Yeah, Santa Barbara's the gauchos. Santa Cruz are well known for their banana slug logo, which is native to the redwood forests.
Yeah,
right,
a big.
Bigger than that, 6 inches long sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. So all your college years you spent in California, including UCLA.
Yeah, so I was a UC guy, and that sent me on the career path. I got my PhD in clinical psychology, and so I'm a psychologist by training, and decided to try my hand at academia. And so I went for 1 year to the University of Michigan as a visiting professor. The mentor professor that I was working with went to take over the Department of Communication there. And so I tagged along, and my wife and I lived in Ann Arbor for one cold winter. And so by December, we were deciding that was not for us for the long term. And so we started to look to come back to the West. And that brought us back to Las Vegas in 1992. Wow. We packed up our U-Haul and drove to the Excalibur, which was pretty much a new hotel back then.
Yes.
And we rented a storage place and put our stuff in storage, went to California and got married.
Wow.
And then honeymoon and came back to Las Vegas in August of 1992, and have lived here ever since.
92, was the president Carol Halter then?
No, Bob Maxon was the president, and so a lot of people remember that as just after the Jerry Tarkanian days. So the funny thing is, I was with the Fab Five in Michigan. So when I was at Ann Arbor, they had the Fab Five, but it was just after the glory days of UNLV, and then Coach Tarkanian left in that spring. Yep. And so there was a little bit of turmoil when I arrived on campus the fall of 1992.
Right. And off camera, you and I were discussing that there seems to be some great excitement going on in sports now and Rebel Nation, because not only do we have a 4-0 team with a great coach, but there's great optimism about the basketball coach you hired as well for the Rebels. So.
Yeah, so we're excited about both sports programs, women's basketball as well as our incredible program, and a lot of our sports. But football, we've become relevant in the national conversation for the first time over the last couple of years, and that's exciting. We finished last year, I think, maybe ranked number 23, and we're getting votes in the top 25 again this year with our 4-0 record, and beat my alma mater, UCLA, a few weeks back.
Was that hard?
Well, not for me. Okay. I was rooting for the Rebels 100%.
Very good. So now we know how you got to UNLV. That was a long professional career. What made you want to get into higher education? Was there a pivotal moment or time that guided your path that way?
Well, one of the things about being a clinical psychologist is you can always kind of go into practice. And so I was a researcher in studying marital communication. And in the academic field, you can have a lot of impact because you publish research that can, really change thinking across the whole country or sometimes beyond the country. And so I was interested in trying my hand in that area. And I always thought, well, if that doesn't work out, I can always go and be a practitioner. And actually, I did get my license here in Southern Southern Nevada, working with Rob Hunter, who was a really famous psychologist in town, who sadly passed away a few years back. But he was a great mentor to me. And so I got my license as a psychologist, and I did a little bit of practice on the side, but I just ended up sticking with the academic stuff. And I love the teaching, and had a great department. And I was hired in to teach marital and family therapy because we were planning to start a new doctoral program. You might also remember there was a recession in 1992, and so that kind of slowed things down. But in 1999, we started a doctoral program in clinical psychology. And at that time, like it's often been the case in Southern Nevada, we were the largest city in the country that didn't have its own clinical psychology doctoral program. So we started that program, and 1 year later, I became the director of that program. And now really proud to see graduates of our program all over Nevada in really leading roles in the mental health field from the program that we stood up.
And I know a lot of the community, Chris, me included, our colleagues at the LVGA are excited about having a president who's been here for a long time because, and it's not a bad thing to recruit somebody, I think, from another successful region, but you do have a history and a passion and again, a deep connection to the community and what's happened at the school. So I know I'm one of the folks that are very happy. My next question has to do with the role of UNLV in the entire ecosystem, because as you know, at Workforce Connections, we work with the entire ecosystem, not just the post-secondary. You at UNLV, Stacy at CSN, it used to be Darian, but now Amber at Nevada State University, but also Joan Ebert at the K through 12 system, because talent development starts that early. And then, your portion along the rest of it, hopefully, if we're doing it correctly, is feeding the talent that our employers and our business community need. Can you tell us where you see that going? I mean, I know you believe it's important, but what kind of things do we have to do to make sure that the skill acquisition system is matching the demand side?
Yes. So I'll start by saying that I conceive of the main client of the university as not actually being the student, it's the community. Yep. And what I think about is that the university basically invests, the state invests hundreds of millions of dollars into the university to give students a high quality product at a discounted rate. And so that draws them into the system. And our goal ultimately is to meet the needs of the community through our programs. And so we're definitely really focused on adding high value programs that serve urgent community needs. And one of the things I often say about UNLV is that, first of all, I say it's the anchor institution because, it's the largest institution of higher education in the whole state of Nevada and certainly the only research university in Southern Nevada. And that we are the institution that's operating at a scale to meet the professional workforce needs of Southern Nevada. And we've been here, both of us have been here long enough to see the explosive growth in Southern Nevada. And we're really always playing catch up because, we were the largest, I mentioned already, city in the country without a clinical psychology program. We were the largest city in the country without an MD training program of our own. So we started our School of Medicine 10 years ago, and now we've graduated, I think, 6 classes of doctors who are out, hopefully, many of them staying in Southern Nevada to serve the community. So there's so many areas where we're behind in the number of professionals that we need. And so we're excited to make sure that we're adding the kinds of programs that we're needing, and that for the programs that we're running, we're really aligning them with the expectations of the employers and the workforce needs of the community.
No, that's great to hear, Chris, and especially it comes across in your excitement for it. Again, when we were in DC, I share with you that when I arrived to Las Vegas in 1987, all the way from Lima, Peru, it was a different town. And I remember the commercials with Jerry Tarkanian and his Rebels. They were dressed in cowboys, the Wild Wild West and all this stuff. And I enrolled as a student in December of 1987 to take English as a second language. And I ended up, one of my classrooms was in the building where your office is, before they had probably dedicated buildings for that now. But the university has grown a lot. Every time I visit, I went back years later. Your predecessor, Keith Whitfield, pointed out to us all the growth since the last time I've been there. And so there's reason to be excited, I guess. Did any of his, when you moved into the office, did by mistake leave any of those good cigars behind, or did he take them all?
I think he took all the cigars, okay. I'm sorry to say, but we'll definitely get some more. So next time you come over, we have some for you.
All right. So when it comes to the future, because we're excited about sports for good reason, we're excited about the things you talked about, aligning, the product to the needs of our community. What other things excite you about the future of higher ed, UNLV, in the next few years? Because Bo, another great ambassador for you, Bo Bernard, always educates us that there's so much stuff happening there the community doesn't know. One of my favorites is the superconductor, that under cold conditions loses no energy during transmission. And that's just one example of the great things. So what excites you about what's happening at UNLV?
Yeah, and so that's an example of the kind of basic research that's done at a research university like ours. And you think we're in that top classification now of R1 research institutions. And most people don't know that, UNLV has matured into a full major nationally prominent research university. And so we're doing that kind of innovation work that can lead to changes that do have impact all over the world. And so one of the ones that we're looking at commercialization now is a product that actually draws water out of the air. And so one of our faculty members developed a system using a patented material to able to really super condense the moisture that's in the air. And it seems like the air here is so dry, but it turns out actually there is quite a bit of water in it. And so now we're looking to build more large scale versions of that. And they say that, something that would be the size of maybe a refrigerator might be able to even produce like 100 gallons of water a day. Wow. And so we're working on that as a commercial product in collaboration with the faculty member who developed it. And that's just, one example.
A very exciting one.
Yeah, certainly one that's, urgently needed.
Yes.
We were with, the head of the water district this morning who's talking about anytime we talk about development in Southern Nevada, we really got to consider the water needs of any development because water is definitely a scarce resource here in the Mojave Desert.
And John, like you and I, serves on the LVGA. We've had him here as a guest too. Before you move on to another exciting thing, I want to hear about it. I wanted to ask you a follow-up to this. I once read an article about this. It was called An Ocean in the Sky, But I wanted to ask you, I also heard that during Formula One, they were piloting some ideas about how to, capture the water that they use for the racetracks. Was this technology part of those pilots,
I think this one is different than what they were doing there.
Or Formula One, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about another exciting thing, because you were going right into it when I stopped you about John.
Well, yeah, tons of important stuff going on. So let me mention a few programs that'll have important implications for Southern Nevada. So we have recently, just this fall, created what's called a CRNA, Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist. So it's a word I have trouble saying, but they're basically, functional anesthesiologists who work under the supervision of anesthesiologists. But one of the major limiting factors now in surgeries in Southern Nevada is the lack of anesthesiologists. In fact, my wife had emergency back surgery a little while back, and she was in terrible pain, and it ended up they had to bump another surgery because of her surgery because they didn't have an anesthesiologist to do both. Wow. And so that program will meet a really urgent workforce need. Another one that we've stood up is now we have both an undergraduate and a master's degree in cybersecurity. And anyone who's been paying attention in Southern Nevada has seen the major impacts of risks in the cybersecurity space,
Big
both
companies.
in our resort industry and on our state government recently. And we're hoping to use that program to create what they call a security operations center, where we can use the students who are getting educated in our program and hire them to provide SOC, security operation 24/7 services to state agencies, because all of the counties, cities, state governments struggle to afford the kind of state-of-the-art cybersecurity defense monitoring that's necessary. And so we can both create a workforce pipeline and directly provide a service to the state in collaboration with the state government.
That is exciting. That's really cool. Chris, what on the other side of that coin, what challenges do you have? What are some of the challenges that you have to face over the next few years?
Well, we always talk about money when, money is scarce, and, Nevada is a sort of moderate tax state, and it's got some high needs in other areas. And so it's not a state that's invested a ton of money in higher education. And so we would, like to see some of that come back. We used to get about 19% of the state budget, but it's drifted down to 12% now. And that's a big difference. Yeah. And so we're trying to kind of navigate that to make sure that we can continue to provide really high quality graduates to the community. we're really lean. All of the higher education in Nevada is very lean and efficient in terms of the dollars we dollars we spend to produce a graduate. So we're excited about that. Another one is kind of this national conversation. So there's two dimensions of it. One is a lot of people think education is unaffordable, and there's kind of a narrative out there about that. Education in Nevada is highly affordable. A lot of our students pay very little, actually, after they get scholarships and financial aid from us, especially if they qualify for the Pell Grant. And so if people worry about the affordability, we want them to come in and ask us, because a lot of times it's much less expensive than people realize, especially if they want to go to CSN and do an associate's degree there and then transfer over to UNLV, or even go to Nevada State, which is a little bit less expensive than going to UNLV. And then the last piece I'd mention is the kind of even broader narrative that's cropped up a little more recently about, is higher education worth it? So the data are really compelling that the value of a college degree has never been greater than it is today. And it certainly varies some by what college degree you earned. But for example, during the Great Recession, the unemployment rate of college graduates was always half or less than it was for non-college graduates. And so the future of the value of higher education, the data are very strong that it's a worthwhile investment. But there's a lot of people out there kind of questioning that. And even there's a little bit of political narrative out there that has become putting higher education in maybe a somewhat of a characterized it as being more political than I think it is. Some people sort of talk about it as, something that people on the more left side of the spectrum should do, or it leans more that direction. The reality is people come to us, like well, because they want to get a better job. And we understand that. The number one degree that people come into UNLV seeking is nursing, because they want to go out and be a nurse. And, we got huge growth in our engineering sector. We got huge growth in our business school. People come because they want to build a better future for themselves and their families. And we understand that. And that's what we focus on in education.
And I can attest to what you're saying is true, because I have two adult children that went to UNR and UNLV. And, they both benefited from the Millennium and the Pell and scholarships through the Public Education Foundation. So, yes, I think there's ways to make it affordable. And also, more importantly than that, as you said, how valuable is their college education? Well, my son is a young executive doing great in the gaming industry, Sam. And Sophia, my daughter, after working 3 years as a physical therapist, graduate from the UNLV School of Physical Therapy, working for her mentor, the person who inspired her to the profession in his clinic, just 3 years ago became a young entrepreneur and opened her own clinic. That's and the school has had her back, by the way, to talk to the young, the next graduates. They call them, C1, C2, C3 in the physical therapy world. But so she loves her alma mater. She's been there she wants to continue to stay engaged. And so, yes, the power is visible in their lives for me of that education. So.
Well, I love to hear those stories. And one of the fun things of having decades, at UNLV is I've seen thousands and tens of thousands of people go on to do great things with the education they got.
Yeah, it's awesome. So this chapter that you've started, Chris, and again, there's a lot of us that are happy and ready to support you and make sure you're successful. And we hope it's not a short chapter. But when this chapter ends, whenever that might be, hopefully in a long time, if you could say when that chapter is over, I want this to be remembered, the legacy part. You've talked about a lot about already, but how would you define what you want to accomplish in this chapter as the president?
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And I'm excited to have this opportunity to lead the institution where I've basically spent my whole career. And one of the things that I'm focused on is really getting UNLV out into the community. And we are a huge asset to this Las Vegas and Southern Nevada community that a lot of people don't know about. And so I really want to help us be more visible and more integrated into the community. I spent a lot of time talking to the county commission, the city council, going to go up and meet in North Las Vegas, Henderson, get out to Boulder City, meet all the government officials, really spend time with state legislators, and look at establishing some new outposts where we can offer services that are, available at UNLV into the community. We've done some of that in the mental health space. For example, we have a mental health clinic that's in the medical district. We're really excited with our Shadow Lane campus and to see how they can keep developing in terms of the dental school, the medical school, and hopefully growing our UNLV health practice plan, which is providing a lot of great services already. But we're behind in healthcare in Southern Nevada. And so there's a lot of specialties and some specialties that aren't here that we think UNLV School of Medicine, Krikorian School of Medicine, and UNLV Health can help make available to the community. So we're doing great things on Maryland Parkway with basically a large, medium-sized city there, 35,000, 40,000 people there every day. Yeah. We want to be all throughout Clark County and Southern Nevada in much more visible ways. And so I'm excited to lead that, hopefully for the next decade.
I like that, Chris. I think it's much needed. As you know, at the LVGA board meetings, today we were at one. I chose to participate Zoom. You had to drive 40 minutes, but they're important because we talk about how for the next steps of economic development of this city that you and I came in 87, 92, found like this, and now it's like this. But if we want to grow more and continue to diversify our economy, we have to do something about healthcare. And so that's a big subject at the LVGA. What other things, what else excites you, or why do you enjoy being a board member at the LVGA?
Yeah, I was so happy to be in that room today and to start meeting all those people. I'm proud of the record that I have on campus, and I'm really well known on the UNLV campus because I've been in administration there for really 15 or 20 years and built a lot of programs and had a lot of success. And so I'm proud of having been hired and supported by people who know me well on the campus. I'm not as well known in the community because I've really been focused inside the boundaries. And now I really want to be outside the boundaries of the campus and meeting all those people. And so the LVGA really represents that. Who are the people in the community who are working to make a difference in this complex ecosystem that we have and that we need in order to support both economic diversification and for the economic growth. So it's really great to meet the people in that room and to figure out how we can help with the labor component of the needs of the community, but also other areas of innovation and services that we can do through direct community engagement, like healthcare and other kinds of areas like that.
And I think you're doing a good job because that's how we met as you started to go out to the community at the LVGA. And I think actually the first time I met you was the Vegas Chamber Carson City fly-in when you had the scooter. But since then at the DC, I watch you and then afterwards during the meetings I hear, but did you meet Chris, the new president? So I think you're doing a good job in getting out there and connecting with those of us who want to, again, work with you and whatnot. So congrats on that piece.
Well, thanks. I'm excited to do it. It's always fun to meet new people and build these connections, talk about the university I love and the community I love. And the other thing I'll just say is that I've said to our board that I'll stay for as long as they will have me. I'm not going to apply for another job. My wife and I are here for the duration. We're going to spend the rest of our lives here. She did 32 years in CCSD, so I'm kind of an honorary member of CCSD, and she was principal of an elementary school, Nate Mack in Henderson, for 18 consecutive years. And so she just retired last year, and she's excited to help me on this journey and be out in the community with me.
That's so cool, two educators. So let's go now to your personal life, because we've learned a lot about a big job here in our community, the president of UNLV. But tell us about how you and your wife, when you're not working, not traveling to the LVGA and do all these, different community things, how do you recharge your batteries? What brings you and her happiness, fulfillment, kind of lets you, again, be ready for the next week or the next day?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. I have been a biker for about 20 years. Well, even longer. I biked when I was in college and stuff, but I took up mountain biking again here in Southern Nevada when a friend showed me how great the full suspension mountain bikes are. Wow. And there's incredible mountain biking here. And I've transitioned over, some people call it cheating, but I just call it more fun, to an e-mountain bike. Wow. And so we've had a lot of fun, and we actually have done a lot of that together. She had a bad accident and actually broke her arm, her wrist and her shoulder. So she doesn't mountain bike anymore. But she supports me getting out there on the trails and on the roads biking. And one of the things we've been able to do together now, a little bit more than when she was working in the school district, is travel. And so I have a lot of travel for my work, and we're doing some engagement in Asia as well. And so we just got back from a trip from South Korea and China that we were able to do together. And then we were just in New York and DC together. And she's really a happy, free spirit. And so she just tags along. And when she can chime into the work part, she's there. But otherwise, she just goes off and tours and sees different buildings. That's and nice. Has a great time.
So you got to enjoy the DC. Did she make the gala?
She didn't come on that trip.
Oh, okay.
We were just there actually Monday and Tuesday of this week. Okay. And so she went to the African American Museum to enjoy that while we were there this week.
Very cool. When you said biking, I don't know why my mind immediately went to leather jackets and big Harleys, but then you said mountain bike. So now I pictured your helmet and all the safety gear. Yeah. Do you do Behind Blue Diamond?
Yeah. So often called Cottonwood or Late Night. Yeah. It's the trailhead out there. I've done many trips out there. It's beautiful. You get out in remote areas. And, you know, one of the things when I'm out there, I'm like, there's some people, but they're not many people. It's never crowded. Beautiful biking in Boulder City. There's one called Bear's Best, which is just on the western edge of town here. Is a really fun area. And so pretty much any direction in town, there's great mountain biking.
Very cool. So a lot of times I think about, Chris, that when we get to this age and we start to get gray hair or wisdom, as others put it, I look back and I think, man, if I could give my 18-year-old version of myself some advice to save all that pain, it excites me. But then I remember he was a knucklehead. He wouldn't listen anyway. So I think it's youth is wasted on the young. But if there was somebody out there who's 18 today listening and that can relate to you and saying, I also want to be an educator. I would love to, have the type of career that Chris has. What advice would you give them? What important lessons in life have you learned that you could pass on to an 18-year-old who's willing to digest some?
Yeah. Well, for those who might be interested, and I'm sure you were a great 18-year-old, not a knucklehead, but I think of a couple of things. One of the things I say to students coming in is that the future is bright and full of opportunities, but you got to be excellent. You really got to lean into making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and living up to the challenges that are in front of you, and that people will notice then. But if you're just kind of hanging out in the back expecting someone to grab you and pull you to success or some really great position, that might end up being a little disappointing. So the first thing I really do try to say to people is like, aim for excellence, really work at what you do. And I think, I don't like to toot my own horn or your horn, but I think both we're here in this conversation because we've been excellent. We've worked hard in the jobs we've had and we've performed well, and people noticed that and gave us additional opportunities. So I think effort and really focusing on trying to do your best at all times goes a long way. The other thing I would say is really try to give people grace and be consistently polite. I remember, when we started doing a lot of emails, when we were young, there weren't very many emails.
That's right.
And I had a mentor who just always wrote the most polite emails. And a lot of people go to shorthand in emails or text messages and stuff. And I noticed that he was always very hello, nice, and had a nice closing in his email, even his email communication. Because email doesn't carry that emotion. Mm-hmm. And so you got to work to put it in there. But that kind of, I think, carries over to everything. Try to realize that people might be having a bad day, give them a lot of grace. Whatever they give you, give them something back kind.
That's great advice. I can't believe we're at the end of the podcast already. It seems like it went so fast, but in about 30, 45 days, we're going to be moving from these facilities to our new ones at Civic Center with Mary Beth in the chamber and that building that the city of Las Vegas has built, which is a fabulous. And we're going to have a brand new podcast studio, and we'd love to have you there. Is it a fair request to have you come back one day?
I would be delighted. I'd love to come back and talk about the university and this community anytime. And, we're excited to maybe see if we can be in that building with you.
The third floor, right?
Yeah, we've met with the city yesterday and we're working on a proposal. It's such a beautiful space, and we have a lot to offer the community. And that would be an example of us trying to be more community engaged and out there forward facing in a community space.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. To get to see you more. So the last question, Chris, is, are there any events, initiatives? I know there's football games coming up, but is there anything you want our audience to know about UNLV, any aspect of it, sports, academics?
Well, I would say, there's far too many things to mention, but what I would say is on the website, we have events constantly. We've got an incredible performing arts center. We've got a full slate of Division I athletics, women's basketball, most successful sport we've had over the last 4 years. Those games are really exciting. Women's volleyball is a great spectator sport. Soccer, every other sport you can think of. We have the Performing Arts Center has constantly things going on in Ham Hall and Judy Bailey Theater, performances that people can take advantage of. We've got lots of public lectures. One of the ones that is really exciting that we'll bring back this spring is the Barrick Lecture, which is endowed by Marjorie Barrick, that brings in very high profile speakers. And so we'll have some of those announcements, and they're all free. The Barrick lectures are all free, but there's many other speakers that are brought in by other programs on campus. It's 16 different academic colleges, so there's just always a million things going on. So come to campus and go to the website and find something that fits your interests, and you'll be able to benefit from being engaged with UNLV.
Is the URL as easy as, to me, I'd imagine it being unlv.edu.
That's it.
Okay.
That'll get you there.
We'll put it on the screen, too, for our YouTubers. Chris, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come spend time with us, and I look forward to having you in the next one.
Such a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chris. Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you at a future one. Until then, stay safe. Chris, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment. Thank you also for doing it on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Hey, thanks so much.
So the first section of our bonus segment is called Your Favorite. So I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to give me your favorite thing in that category. Let's start with an easy one. Favorite food?
Lasagna.
Favorite beverage with dinner?
Bourbon and soda.
Favorite dessert after dinner?
Oh, tiramisu.
Favorite way to start your day?
Coffee with friends.
Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Watching a relaxing movie, which means one I've already seen.
Favorite way to recharge on the weekend?
Going for a bike ride.
Favorite book or movie?
Favorite book, Trinity.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite car you've ever owned?
I've had 4 Honda Accords.
Wow. Favorite college sports team?
UNLV Running Rebels.
Favorite professional sports team?
The Raiders.
Very good. You made it through the first segment called Favorites. Now the second one gets a little harder, and we named it Tough Choices. Nothing you can't handle. I'm going to give you 2 choices. Hopefully you can pick one. It's legal to say both or none if you need to. Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
When you go to that vacation, Airbnb or hotel?
Hotel.
When you retire, on a ranch or in the city?
In the city.
If you could spend a day by yourself or with your wife, would it be by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
By the ocean.
Would you rather mentor one student or inspire many?
Inspire many.
Higher enrollment or higher graduation rate?
Higher enrollment.
Have more time?
That
was a hard one, right?
That's, both, but yeah.
Both is fine. That's legal. Have more time or have more money?
More time.
If you were a superhero, the ability to fly or breathe underwater?
Fly.
The ability to speak with animals or speak any foreign language?
Any foreign language.
Here's where it gets super tough. Truth or kindness?
Kindness.
Actions or words?
Action.
Justice or grace?
I got to go both.
So you made it through tough choices, Chris. Good job. The final segment is called Finish the Sentence. I'm going to give you about 90% of the sentence. You're going to finish it for me. If you could visit any place in the world, it would be?
Mount Everest.
The best part about living here in Southern Nevada is?
Great people.
Your favorite thing about being the president of UNLV is?
Helping support this community.
And if you weren't working in education, you might be?
Practicing psychologist.
And if you could travel back in time, you would travel to?
Now is pretty good.
All right. 3 words that describe you, Chris, are?
Tall, friendly, and cheerful.
That's very good. Doing the WC podcast here with us today was?
A lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you for staying over and doing the bonus segment.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.